Good morning. Can you hear us, Dr. Ehren Jarrett?
Good morning. How are you?
We're good. Thank you for joining us. And thanks for, you're going to see JB's back of his head because we're actually going to just take the audio from this call.
No worries.
All right. Fantastic. First of all, Dr. Ehren Jarrett from RPS 205, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you have a heck of a lot more important things to deal with right now.
It's my pleasure. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on your show this morning.
So when you guys made the plan for back to school for RPS 205,
what was it? Did you consult with any other surrounding districts, or was this solely something Rockford specific?
Boy, we consulted with local health officials, national health officials, districts across the country, across the state, and locally. It was a very, very collaborative decision, and it was just a tough decision. And the more we dove into it, the more confusing it became and challenging it became. So we really zoned in on saying, we're going to really lean on our local health experts. So we're working very closely with Dr. Sandra Martell in the Winnebago County Health Department and the state of Illinois. And we are really, when it comes time to the decision to determining should we offer an in-person choice for families as well as remote learning options, we felt like Dr. Martell and the County Health Department were the folks we should be leaning really closely on. And at this point, they are telling us that it is safe to go ahead with that, and that the risk of students missing out on having that option for in-person when weighed against the real risk of COVID, she ultimately, and along with the County Health Department, feels like we still should be able to go ahead at this time. But that can change if things get worse or we see an outbreak that increases. Obviously, we are going to be fully prepared to go to all remote learning if need be.
That was what next question was going to be, like, what would have to happen? Just case numbers really rise to make the full district switch to remote learning?
Yeah, our current positivity rate has hovered between 3% and 4%, and the state also watches things like the percentage of hospital beds that are available and things like that. But the main thing is that positivity rate. And we're somewhere in the upper 3s, lower 4s typically in terms of percentage. I think it would have to get closer to 8% for 3 consecutive days is what Dr. Martell has informed us as a region. So it's really important that we have great safety protocols in our schools, but that also outside of the school day, families across our community are taking this very, very seriously in terms of wearing a mask and in terms of following guidance from the health department at the state and local level.
If Governor Pritzker backtracks Illinois to fully close, and we do it like he re-implements the stay-at-home order, we'll say, will that have an effect on schools? Will they automatically go to e-learning, or will the schools still be offering in-class instruction?
Yeah, at this point, Governor Pritzker's stance has been to take a region-by-region perspective. The state is divided into 11 regions, and we are in what's called Region 1, which I think would cover a lot of your listening radius there. Rockford and some surrounding communities to the east and the west are both included, as well as to the south. And, I think ultimately we are confident at this point that Governor Pritzker is going to allow that decision to be made on a region-by-region basis, school district by school district basis, rather than statewide. But yes, if he were to at some point decide the state of Illinois' health conditions are not where they need to be as a whole, he always has that authority to say, you know what, everybody's doing remote learning because we're just seeing too much transmission and we don't like the way the numbers are looking at the state level.
Now, yesterday, my daughter is an RPS student in elementary school, and we received some more information in a newsletter about remote learning. Like their remote learning students will have to check in by 7:35 for morning meeting, and then they're going to have at some other predetermined time some interactive, like 2 hours of interactive time with their teachers. Is that district-wide?
It is. We feel like with remote learning, we did what was called emergency remote learning last spring, and we surveyed our students and our families, and we monitored the engagement rate of our students. And what we saw was not having kind of a standard check-in time and doing something, we use a pretty fancy term that's become popular called synchronous learning, and it's just a fancy way of saying at the same time. And we find that when we need to give some opportunities for students to learn asynchronously, which means not at the same time, but also having some check-in times, because we were just losing too many students when we were doing emergency remote learning. So we know that there's some convenience that is lost for parents that have very high-level job responsibilities across the board and just can't be there as much as they'd like to help with some of those schedules. But we feel like the trade-off is we really want to make sure that a class is connecting as a whole at least a few times a day and every day of the week if possible remotely. So we just don't lose students to this remote learning. We want to make sure that we stay connected. It's such an important part of the learning process.
Absolutely. That's why I chose in person for my daughter this year. But so in terms of scheduling the interactive time with teachers, and that's going to be flexible kind of depending on how the family's day looks?
So what will be flexible is the asynchronous part of that. There are going to be all kinds of great activities and projects that students are going to be able to work on. It may be a teacher videoing a lesson and the student being able to watch that later on in the day. But the synchronous stuff is going to happen, which means at the same time, again, that is going to be happening like a bell schedule. And we think that's really important because we want to make sure that whether you chose remote learning or whether in person, we think it's important that there's a routine that is built and the opportunity for connection with your class and with your teacher. So we think that's also going to be an important part of the work.
I just have one more question. When it comes to these special attendance Wednesdays, will all Smiley, I guess unless the student needs extra support, do they not, like I'm thinking elementary school, obviously for my daughter, if she doesn't need additional support, does that mean she doesn't go to school on Wednesdays?
Well, I think this is going to be a really exciting opportunity because yes, we are going to be focusing on students who need extra social, emotional, and learning support for sure. But we also are going to be looking at students who are at or above grade level and thinking about ways we can extend their learning. So what will happen is teachers will get together along with school social workers, psychologists, the principal. There's going to be a problem-solving team, and we're going to look not only to help students who have fallen a bit behind, but also we're going to be looking at, hey, we really need to stretch some students even further. So a good multi-tiered system of support is the technical term that we use, really isn't just about catching students up, although that is a core function of that. It is also about helping kids who are at grade level or ahead extend and go even further. So I think it will be on a case-by-case basis, and I think our schools will definitely have a nice mix of students on those Wednesday mornings. And, we're certainly going to have a little bit smaller class sizes, but it's going to be kind of an all hands on deck approach to meet students' needs. We think so many of our students are needing that extension or they're needing that catch-up time that a lot of students, I think, are going to get an opportunity to have service in person on Wednesday or remotely on Wednesday as well.
Perfect.
We are speaking with the RPS 205 Superintendent Dr. Ehren Jarrett, and I think you have encapsulated a lot of the questions that we've been getting from our listeners over the past couple of weeks. So we want to thank you so much for taking 10 minutes out of your crazy busy morning to get into a little bit more detail, a little bit more personal level, so that way the message of what the plan is moving forward, for the most part, for what we can control, is in place. And I think a lot of parents and guardians are going to feel a lot better having heard this conversation. So thank you for your time this morning.
I really appreciate the opportunity. It was great to see you. And please don't hesitate to reach out anytime to have a conversation.
Thank you very much.
All right. Good to talk to both of you. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.